We won Texas by 700,000 votes, and they don't even include it in the tabulations. It's also clear that we have won Georgia. We're up by 2.5%, or 117,000 votes with only 7% left. They're never going to catch us. They can't catch us. Likewise, we've clearly won North Carolina. We're up 1.4%, or 77,000 votes with only approximately 5% left. They can't catch us. We also, if you look and you see Arizona, we have a lot of life in that. And somebody declared that it was a victory for, and maybe it will be. I mean, that's possible. But certainly there were a lot of votes out there that we could get, because we're now just coming into what they call Trump territory. I don't know what you call it, but these were friendly Trump voters. And that could be overturned. The gentleman that called it, I watched tonight, he said, well, we think it's fairly unlikely that he could catch. Well, fairly unlikely. And we don't even need it. We don't need that. That was just a state that if we would have gotten it, it would have been nice, Arizona. But there's a possibility, maybe even a good possibility. In fact, since I saw that originally, it's been changed, and the numbers have substantially come down just in a small amount of votes. So we want that, obviously, to stay in play. But most importantly, we're winning Pennsylvania by a tremendous amount. We're up 600. Think of this. We're up 690,000 votes in Pennsylvania. 690,000. These aren't even close. It's not like, oh, it's close. With 64% of the vote in, it's going to be almost impossible to catch. And we're coming into good Pennsylvania areas where they happen to like your president. So we'll probably expand that. We're winning Michigan, but I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said, whoa. I said, wow, that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes. And 65% of the voters in it. And we're winning Wisconsin, so we're winning. We don't need all of them. We need, because when you add Texas in, which wasn't added, I spoke with the really wonderful governor of Texas just a little while ago, and Greg Abbott, he said, congratulations. He called me to congratulate me on winning Texas. I mean, we won Texas. I don't think they finished quite the tabulation, but there's no way. And it was almost complete, but he congratulated me. Then he said, by the way, what's going on? I've never seen anything like this. Can I tell you what? Nobody has. So we won by 107,000 votes with 81% of the vote. That's Michigan. So when you take those three states in particular, and you take all of the others, I mean, we have so many, we had such a big night. You just take a look at all of these states that we've won tonight, and then you take a look at the kind of margins that we've won them by. And all of a sudden, it's not like we're up 12 votes and we have 60% left. We won states, and all of a sudden, I said, what happened to the election? It's off. And we have all these announcers saying, what happened? And then they said, oh, because you know what happened? They knew they couldn't win. So they said, let's go to court. And did I predict this, Newt? Did I say this? I've been saying this from the day I heard they were going to send out tens of millions of ballots. I said exactly, because either they were going to win, or if they didn't win, they'll take us to court. So Florida was a tremendous victory, 377,000. Texas, as we said. Ohio, think of this. Ohio, a tremendous state, a big state. I love Ohio. We won by 8%. 3.1%, 460, almost 500,000 votes. North Carolina, big victory with North Carolina. And so we won there. We lead by 76,000 votes with almost nothing left. And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list. Okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this. And as far as I'm concerned, we already have won. So I just want to thank you, and I want to thank all of our support. I want to thank all of the people that worked with us, and Mr. Vice President, say a few words, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to join you in thanking more than 60 million Americans who have already cast their vote for 4 more years for President Donald Trump. And while the votes continue to be counted, we're going to remain vigilant, as the President said. The right to vote has been at the center of our democracy since the founding of this nation, and we're going to protect the integrity of the vote. But I really believe with all my heart, with the extraordinary margins, Mr. President, that you've inspired in the states that you just described, and the way that you launched this movement across the country to make America great again, I truly do believe, as you do, that we are on the road to victory and we will make America great again.
There you go. There was President Donald J. Trump and Vice President Michael Pence. Trump saying that he won, as far as he's concerned, he won the election. That there is saying they're not going to steal it from me. We're not counting ballots. They're going before the Supreme Court. Looks like, and we'll see if we can roll up one of the Electoral College maps. This looks like it's going to go down to the wire on this whole thing. And maybe, as a law professor and esteemed, and a lot of you political junkies that have watched this know of Jonathan Turley. He's been around a long time, gives a lot of opinions on that. He said, looks like our worst case scenario is going to come down. Looks like it's going to be... we're going to get to Pennsylvania is going to be the last one to be counted. We're not going to have it. It's going to be neither one. Biden or Trump is going to get 270 to that point. So Pennsylvania is going to call it. And with the, he said, with the chaos and very questionable legal rulings by judges in that area, according to him, in the Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. He said this thing could make Bush v. Gore in 2000 look like a cakewalk. And I've said the same thing. I said, if it comes down to Pennsylvania and that's going to call it, we're in for a ride. So it doesn't look like we're going to get much, if any. Doesn't look like, and maybe even more than a day. I don't know if we'll even get a call on Wednesday. Like I say, if it trends just as the states that have been called or Trump and Biden are ahead, if that holds as of right now, we're not going to get an electoral college victory until Pennsylvania's called. Here's one chart, same thing. This is a chart I'm looking at. If you take Nevada and Arizona, which are leaning Joe Biden's way, and you take Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, and Georgia, which are leaning Trump's way, neither one of them has 270 at this point. Then it's down to Pennsylvania. They've already said they're not going to even update the count till 9 o'clock Eastern time, which will be 6 o'clock Wednesday morning on the West Coast. So, again, like I say, if it holds as it is, and we'll probably have calls maybe here in a couple hours to maybe early in the morning on Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, and Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. Pennsylvania has already said they're going to take a long time. And as I said, if you look at that map of the ones that have been called or Trump and Biden are leading, if you exclude Pennsylvania, neither one of them gets to 270 electoral votes. So, again, this is going to be a nail-biter of an election. It's probably going to last days, weeks. Trump already said they're gearing up for the legal fight on this. He said we're not going to let the Democrats steal the election on this. And I don't anticipate him being like 1960 when in the Richard E. Nixon versus John F. Kennedy. And most of the conventional wisdom is it was stolen out of Crook County or Cook County, Illinois, which is the Chicago area, which they found enough votes in that area to put John F. Kennedy into the presidency. And I think what's been going on in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania in particular, there's about 2.5, almost, almost a little over 5 or close to 5 million votes in counted. Trump has a 700,000 vote margin, a pretty substantial lead right now in Pennsylvania, and I think that's close to 2/3 of the vote. So as we're looking at it, if the Trump lead holds, if you want to say it, right now, looking at this map, if it holds right now that, let's say, Biden wins Nevada and Arizona, which he's leading right now, Trump wins Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Trump has got 4 more years. If not, and things switch around, then obviously we could play all kinds of speculation one way or the other on this, but it pretty much looks like it's going to boil down to Pennsylvania if the current trends and none of the states flip as of this point. And with the count going way, going to take a long time to finish in Pennsylvania, they look like they're going to make the call in this one. So it's going to be interesting. Trump won Pennsylvania in 2016. He's getting a lot of the union support in there. So we shall see of how it goes in moving forward. So we're going to end this broadcast on election night. Well, let's update. Well, maybe not. We're not going to end it yet. Let's go through some of the local or statewide stuff. Here we go, the latest. Well, let me refresh it in case there's any updated numbers coming on of that. Let's see what the vote in. And we should be getting a pretty good percentage. 68% of the vote is in California. Disappointing, yes, the bonds to continue stem cell research is passing. No on 15 is at 51.3%, which is good. I'm glad it's no. I wish it was a little bit higher percentage. It seems like LA County is even boosting that because it was down in the 50s, 50.5 or so earlier. So it's bumped back up to 51.3. So maybe we will beat back Prop 15, which will be absolutely great. The stunner is going to be, I think, 20. 20 is going down big time. Getting rid of some of the things like parole restrictions for certain offenses and certain crimes that were disqualified, or if you stole up to $950 worth of merchandise, you basically just got a traffic ticket and nobody showed up. Some of the things that were that was going to fix some of those issues which have been plaguing California for a long time, but that looks like it's going down to defeat big time at 62% no. Looks like the Uber drivers and Lyft drivers are going to be able to work as independent contractors, as 22 yes is winning big all across the board. So the big two I'm disappointed about are 14 and 20. I voted no on 14 and yes on 20, and both of those are losing pretty good. There is a possibility, but I doubt it. The bonds are only 51.4 versus 48.6. The parole thing is done. It's stick a fork in that. You're still going to have crime in California up the kazoo, according if this holds. Let's just look at the presidency, and this was another one. And I think Biden is actually winning California, and this was telling to me. Two-thirds of the vote is going to Joe Biden in California. And I think that's better than Hillary. I think Hillary was 62 or 63%. So again, California's bucking the trend a lot. A lot of places were going more towards Trump than Biden in some of these areas. But California obviously is the outlier and going the opposite way of doing that. Let's see let's see if there's any district my contests. Where are the statewide maps? My contest, let's see what close contests are, if there's any. U.S. House Representatives 8. Democrat is actually leading by 0.1% over Jay Obernolte. Wow. That's a number 8. Man, that has been a Republican stronghold for a long time. If that flips, man, we're going to lose a House seat there. Wow. Republicans are getting killed again in Orange County. It looks like all of them are going to hold. Gil Cisneros is, Gil Cisneros versus Young Kim is tight, 50-50, so you see that. Only a less than or a little more than 100 votes. 113? Wow, that one's close. That might flip. Who knows? Harley Rhoda versus Michelle Steele's taking a lead in that race, so that's a potential House flip. Darrell Issa, wow, and 50, which has been another Republican stronghold, is 51.1 to 49.9. So there's two races in 8. Actually, the two very close and very staunch Republican areas, 8 and 50, are actually very close. Well, so are the two in Orange County that may possibly flip. So I don't know, maybe lose a seat or two, maybe gain a seat or two in the Congress in Riverside County. So it looks like that. Bad news for local candidates in the IE. Aja Smith, who ran against Mark Takano, looks like she's losing 2-1, and so is Ali Missouri losing to Jose Medina by about a 2-1 margin. So it looks like a very deal. Let's look at the state assembly. Let's look at those two races. Yeah, Chris Rahigi. 40, let's call it 42-58. Sabrina Cervantes looks like she's going to hold that seat substantially. Let's see what the Missouri Medina race looks like. Yeah, 66.4 versus 33.8 on the Alley, Missouri, Jose Medina Assembly race. So you see that. That looks like you pretty much call that one as Jose Medina is going to win that by about a 2-1 margin in that race. So we're looking at any other close contests. Yeah, the close contests are really all seem to be only ones statewide are our four congressional seats, and again, very surprising. Olbernoti might lose 8, which goes from Redlands through Redlands, a little bit of San Bernardino, all the way up through the high desert, Victorville, Barstow, all the way up, I think, into the mountainous and regions in there. But it was a very plus Republican district and has been for a long time. And if that flips, which it is technically right now, Christine Bubser as leading Democrat is leading Republican Jay Obernolte on that seat, who was a state assemblyman, I believe, in the area. So that is surprising, and so is Armor Camp Najar. Only within 0.2% of Daryl Issa, the flip the other way, 49.9 to 51.1. That is absolutely stunning. If Issa loses that seat or Olbernorty, that is going to send shockwaves through California. They would have to gain the 2 Orange County seats that are close 50-50 right now, basically on that. They are leading. One's leading in that. They'd have to flip those 2 just to be even if those go down. But that's going to be very interesting to see how the count goes on some of those in our area. Very interesting. I want to flip this chart up because in the 2018 governor's race, actually, John Cox, the Republican, actually beat Gavin Newsom in Riverside County. But as you see right now, Biden's got a substantial lead in over Donald Trump, which Hillary won in 2016 in that too. So that's a little bit surprising that since Cox had such a strong showing in the Inland Empire and actually beat Gavin Newsom in Riverside County, and but it seems to be flipping back the other way in Riverside County through some of the state senators, Board of Education on that. Looking at that, let's see what their Riverside TA, let's look at some of that. Tom Hunt looks like he's going to get back in that. Temecula Valley Board looks like Steve Lohner's going to win that seat. Steve Schwartz looks like he's pretty good in TA5 in Temecula. Yucaipa. Kathy Bowe looks like she's got a big lead in that race in Calamasa. Paris Anthony Stafford looks like he's going on to a big win of that Paris School District banning City Council. Where's the Moreno Valley one? I don't think there's. Susan Smith's big lead over Ashley Rivera on that. And let's see what TA5 is. Darrell Peden looks like he's going to go back to re-election over Ruth Stelf-Smith. Andrew Young and former holder of that seat, Evan Morgan's bringing in the tail end of that caboose. Let's see where the Riverside mayor is. There was a controversy with Andy Melendrez and his wife coming out late on the deal. Moreno Valley, Extian Gutierrez looks like he's got a handy lead in the mayor's race. Victoria Baca looks like she's going to be back in 1. Dave Marquez looks like he's pretty safe in to be reelected, so no incumbents. All incumbents are going to win, looks like, in Moreno Valley. Second biggest city in there, Riverside. Paris mayor, Paris Vargas is running unopposed. Malcolm Corona and Rita Rogers look like they're going to be pretty safe, although Rita Placentia looks like she might have a slight chance of that, but not much. Riverside Mayor Patricia Locke Dawson looks like she's in. Andy Melendrez looks like he is not going to make it. Big time loss there. So there's some of your local stuff that's going on all across the board on Riverside County. Going across, 1 cent sales tax looks like it's winning big in Lake Elsinore. Bad news for that. Term limits are going to win big. Looks like, boy, the sales tax in Corona is up, yes, but very tight margin. That one's going to be very close on that. Corona might not pass their sales tax increase. San Jacinto is passing it in flying colors of that. So there's some of your highlights on what's going on in Riverside County, locally, statewide, and everything else. So we're gonna flip it back. Well, let's see. Let's turn on. As we're on that, let's see what's going on in Fox News. Let's get some of the latest updates on what's going on there.
House, and that is where John Roberts is at this early morning hour as we wait for some more results this evening. John, your report on what we saw in there.
This evening is long past. We're now well into this morning.
Into the morning.
Martha Brett, good morning to you. You know, what we saw the president do in the East Room there is the result of ground that he has carefully tilled and seeded over the months. Ever since it became apparent that because of COVID restrictions, a lot of state governors were going to push for mass mail-in balloting or even just an increase in absentee balloting, the president was suggesting that the unsolicited mass mail-in voting in particular would be rife for fraud and abuse. And way back then, and this was probably back in the middle of the summer, the president casting doubt on the outcome of the election, suggesting that the only way that Joe Biden could ever beat President Trump was if the Democrats tried to steal the election. And so you saw the president come out and say, well, don't know what was going on here with all of the ballots were coming in, all of the returns were coming in, we were getting results. I was doing really well in so many states, and then they just stopped it. The suggestion from the president being that the Democrats were looking at this and saying, oh goodness, despite what the polls were saying, President Trump is going to win, so let's stop counting the ballots now and figure out a way that we can find enough ballots to put Joe Biden over the top. That's the implied suggestion from the president. And now the president says that he's going to go, unlike Bush v. Gore, which eventually ended up in the Supreme Court after more than a month of counting and hanging chads and that whole nightmare back in 2000, the president saying that he is going to go directly to the Supreme Court to stop votes from being cast. Now, there was a suggestion by the president that potentially some of these absentee ballots could be marked out after Election Day and then handed in. And there's no suggestion in reality that that could potentially happen, but there's this idea of ballot harvesting that the president has talked about. There's this idea that the Democrats will do whatever they can to find votes wherever they may be stashed, and those put in to be canvassed, and then the results of the election change. So rather than Bush v. Gore, which took 30 days to get to the Supreme Court, President Trump is going to go to the Supreme Court right away. Another interesting thing that the president did this morning, it was suggested by our colleague Jonathan Swan of Axios a couple or 3 days ago that the president was going to declare victory if it looked like he was on the way to it on election night and then battle this out in court. The president said when he was asked about it in Charlotte, North Carolina, as he was on his way to Hickory the other day, no, that was a false report. But in fact, that does seem to be precisely what the president has done. So by declaring victory, he casts doubt on the outcome of the election as we see it now and certainly sets the stage for a long and protracted court battle that will go on not just in one state, as happened back in 2000, but at least 2 states and potentially more than that. It should be pointed out, too, Brett and Martha, that we saw Bill at the Billboard talking about Georgia. There is one news organization that's looking at those numbers and has the probability meter for Georgia now skewed in Biden's direction. So I'm sure that the Trump campaign has taken note of that and is probably going to try to do something about Georgia and what happens over the next few days there. So you've got Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania at the very least. There's also potential for Nevada. I mean, this thing could stretch into, if not just days, this could stretch into weeks. And then the one other final point that I would make here is that the stars kind of came together for President Trump in this whole scenario back at the end of September when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And now he has full 9 justices on the Supreme Court with a 6-3 conservative majority. So even if my namesake, who's much more successful than I am, John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, were to vote with the liberal side of the court, he's still got a 5-4 majority potentially in any ruling with this election. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
It's
John,
certainly going to be interesting.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, ally of the president, confidant, worked on the debate. Chris Christie on the president's speech, quote, "It's a bad strategic decision. It's a bad political decision." By the choice that he gave. We saw the teleprompters up there in the East Room of the White House. We were talking beforehand that was probably going to be a scripted statement because of the legalese that possibly it causes concern.
And I chuckled at that observation.
Yes, I knew you did.
knowing this president as I do.
But so it clearly not in the teleprompter where he says, frankly, we did win this election. And you could see Vice President Pence kind of a little bit of a cleanup on aisle 4 with we're on a path to victory and we are going to keep on fighting to make America great again. So the president wanted to get that message out of us.
Brett, you and I have covered this White House long enough to know that the only thing that matters is what comes out of the president's mouth.
Sure.
So he's saying we won this election, now throwing it to the courts. Katie, bar the door. We'll see where this goes.
And it's exactly what he predicted. He said, as soon as I saw these mail-in ballots going out to all these states, some of them universally, that he projected that there was going to be a problem. You can guarantee that you're going to hear from a lot of folks out there in the media, that there are things that are dramatically wrong with that statement, and some of the missteps that we've seen before. They'll probably treat these statements in a similar light. John, thank you very much. We want to bring in, do we have Peter Doocy? Yeah, all right, let's go to Peter Doocy, who is following the Biden campaign this morning, where I'm guessing it's pretty quiet at this point. Peter?
It is quiet, Martha, but while we still don't have any details about when or where we will see and hear from Joe Biden next, typically at an event like this, as soon as the candidate leaves the stage comes down and the Secret Service clear out, the fences are gone. None of that happened. You still have to be wanted to come into this area. It's all still secure. So it is possible that Biden is going to come right on back here tomorrow. If he does, presumably the campaign had some more time to prepare the press corps, because the press pool that was traveling in Biden's bubble this evening with this last-minute announcement of 12:30 a.m. remarks describes campaign officials as being frazzled and giving them the wrong directions. At one point, some of the press pool were running just to get in and to be wanded by the Secret Service in time. So they do have a little bit more lead time, presumably, for tomorrow. But things will look different if they do it here, because the campaign at this drive-in event laid out a bunch of red, white, and blue Biden-Harris traffic cones, and everybody that was leaving was taking them as a souvenir. So they're going to need some different traffic control if they want to use this parking lot again tomorrow.
Peter Doocy in Wilmington with the Biden campaign. They called a lid right after that speech. So let's just focus on one thing. How many people voted? It's going to turn out to be about 67% of the eligible vote. Tens and tens of millions of Americans voted in person yesterday. Now it's in the morning. In the middle of a pandemic. So we can start there, that's a really good thing for America. We're going to take a quick break. Top of the hour, we'll talk about the other options and look at these states if we get closer to making another call. Keep it here.
I'm in a race against